In today's episode, my guest is Jeffrey Smith of Owl Private Wealth Advisors, a managing partner and private wealth advisor who brings more than 20 years of experience in financial and wealth planning. Prior to forming Owl Private Wealth Advisors, Jeff was a first vice president of wealth management at UBS, where he served not only as a wealth advisor, but also in a leadership role for the Michigan market. Jeff is a graduate of the Eli Broad College of Business at Michigan State University and has completed postgraduate coursework at the American College. Hey Jeff, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, man. Pleasure to have you on. Yep.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on. Yep. So let's get straight into it. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself and why you decided to pursue a career in finance? I know you went to Michigan State and eventually went to Chicago, correct? So take me back to those days.
So way back in 2000, I graduated from Michigan State and the Eli Broad College of Business. I was a marketing major because at the time, I really had no idea what the heck I wanted to do. So I was bouncing around between finance and marketing got me out a little faster than finance because of the courses that I took. And, you know, now there's the Wealth Management Association. You can get your CFP or sit for the CFP by taking all the prerequisites at Michigan State and do all that wonderful stuff. But way back then, it wasn't the case. So I honestly had no idea what people that do what I do now did, I guess, if that makes sense. I watched Wall Street and Boiler Room, and that was the only information I had, which is completely wrong, but it seemed really cool. So I took an extra semester. I graduated in December of 2000. I think it was December 10th or December 16th or something like that. And I started the day after Christmas at a large firm, Morgan Stanley Dean Witter, and had no idea what I was doing, and just said, I'll work hard and I'll see what happens. And here I am 20 years later, or 21 years later. And I've been at a few of the large firms. I went through training at Morgan Stanley Dean Witter at the World Trade Center. I eventually moved to UBS because they gave me a whopping $28,000 salary. And I was like, wow, that's more than I'm making at Morgan Stanley. So we went through their training program, did what the best I could do, grew my practice. I always wanted to work at Merrill Lynch because that was the brand name that everyone kind of knew around the area. And one of their largest and most successful offices was in Bloomfield Hills. So I made the trek over there, and really didn't have much client base to speak of. I mean, it was good, but it wasn't, anything crazy. And I spent about 6 years there and enjoyed the financial crisis there. Bank of America bought Merrill. And one of the people that now just retired from UBS, ran the market at UBS, who was my manager at Merrill, called me up one day and said, we're looking to hire a sales manager for all of Michigan at UBS, work with clients, be in leadership. And I was one of the instructors for the training program at Merrill. So I said, you know what? Things are kind of going in a different direction at Merrill, and why not? So I went back to basically, I feel like the place that I really started at. And I was there until, January 30th of 2000. So we left and started Owl Private Wealth Advisors with a good friend of mine that I'd known a long time, that we both worked at UBS and Merrill together. He had left prior to me going back to UBS to go independent. And we started our firm January 30th of 2000. So we were there a whole whopping month and a couple of weeks before lockdown happened from the pandemic. And here we are now, what is this, August of 2021. And it's probably been the best thing that I could have ever done. So yeah, a long way to get to where we are, but I guess 21 or 20 years is a long time. So
Yeah, so I noticed that you are designated with the Certified Financial Planner designation.
yep.
And how do you think that helps clients? And in your own words, how do you think that benefits yourself as well as your client base?
There's a lot of wonderful designations out there that some focus more on investment management or security analysis, and others focus on kind of what I think you really need to do if you work with individuals and families. And the certified financial planner designation, I think, it's the gold standard, but I also think it's becoming table stakes. There's a lot of people out there, but for what clients are hiring advisors to do, and I think really what we do most of the time is what you learn in the CFP classes, which you guys probably learn about during the undergrad process, and then sitting for the exam and passing the exam, go hand in hand with, advancing to the point where I think when you start, you're worried that the people that you're talking to might know more about this stuff than the advisor does when you're young or right out of school. And I found that that's not the case, but I think the CFP really gives you the opportunity to dial in the things that you need when you work with individuals and families. And also you're held to a fiduciary standard, which we know that's now kind of the thing that people talk about, but it really wasn't a thing that people talked about when I started in 2000. So, but the CFP, a wonderful designation. It keeps you on your toes. There's CE all the time, or continuing education. And it just, I think, works well with kind of at least what I do now versus what some other people in the business might do.
Yeah, you mentioned the fiduciary standard. I see that coming up more and more often, over the
Mhm.
past couple of years. And there's differences between an RIA and, let's say, a brokerage firm.
Mhm.
And what do you think that means, and where do you project the industry going in the foreseeable future with that?
Well, the projection's probably not in my wheelhouse. Josh Brown was on this early on, and I think he kind of has a better handle on things from the big picture perspective. So I'll leave that to people that might know more than I do. Um, Having grown up in a large brokerage or wirehouse firm, there are wonderful advisors there. They do a great job, I think, at training you how to not only, well, they do a good job at helping you learn how to use investments as a wonderful way to get relationships with people and help you guide them in a way that maybe they can't do on their own.
Mhm.
So those large firms are wonderful. There are ways that you sometimes act in a fiduciary there under certain types of agreements with clients and how you're managing their money. So there is sort of a fiduciary standard there, depending on legal terms or not. I don't think they can say they are fiduciaries. I don't think they can put it in writing. I don't think it can go in email, but they do try to do things the best that they can do. Then you have the RAA side, where we're held to a fiduciary standard. Obviously, that's a selling point that I think is becoming almost, it's important, but it shouldn't be the differentiating thing that people hire you for, because we all should really do what's in the client's best interest, whether we can put that in an email or on letterhead or not. But the registered investment advisor space, I think, is probably the most fastest growing area of our business. Now, the largest RIAs are just a speck of dirt compared to the $1 trillion firms that the large firms are. But I do think that you have wonderful people in both types of environment, and clients get to choose who they want to work with people and how they want to work with them and how they want to compensate them and what they want them to provide. And that's what makes our business so good and so exciting, is there's a million ways to do this and nothing's the perfect way. I am now on the RA or RA hybrid side because of some things that I wanted to do that maybe I couldn't do at our prior firm. And I think that really being held to a fiduciary standard and having the ability to put clients first in every situation is kind of a big deal. But let's not forget, we are compensated to do this. So even though there's no conflicts of interest per se in the registered investment advisor space, you are getting compensated. So you do have a conflict of interest there because we're not a charity. So we're doing the best that we can do in all those situations. But it's I think the most important thing is that no matter where you are, that you trust the people that you're with, because they're going to really try to put your best interest first. It just maybe they can't say they're exactly a fiduciary or not.
Yeah. So what was the deciding factor of you going independent? I know you mentioned you were working at these large firms
Mm-hmm.
and then you decided to go independent. Was that a group decision? Did you think that you could, grow better as an independent advisor, independent RIA, let's say? And,
Mm-hmm.
why do you think that would benefit you compared to working for a large brokerage?
The large firms are wonderful. They have some of the biggest and best advisory teams in the business, and they have access to a lot of things that maybe people don't even know that are there, that are on my side of the table. But there wasn't one glaring reason. In some ways, it was maybe death by 1,000 paper cuts, but it really wasn't like that. I wanted to provide services to my clients, or they were asking me to help with things that I couldn't do at a large captive firm. And there's nothing wrong with that because they're large and they have tons of advisors, and maybe not everyone's willing to do the training and continuing education to provide some of the services that I was looking to provide. But it was, when you're at a large firm, they do everything. You walk in the door and everything's taken care of, right? They tell you what's available, they give you your technology, they're doing all the things that you think you need. And if we're in the 1980s and early 1990s, or heck, even late 90s, they were the gold standard. Now, with technology and the fact that maybe these newer, fresher companies from a technological standpoint can do things that these larger, older infrastructure firms can't do, it allows you to do all the things that you want to do and not have to be beholden to someone in New York in the 60th floor that flies in on a helicopter from Greenwich to New York, tells you what you should and shouldn't be doing. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm obviously biased because I'm here, but I had a wonderful 19 years at those large firms. But really, I wanted to do things for clients. I wanted to be able to have flexible compensation arrangements. If a client wants to have me provide advice and counsel and not have investment management as the only way that they're compensating us, I wanted to be able to do that. I wanted to be able to help clients with things that maybe would be considered selling away at a large captive firm that I couldn't really do. So it was really more about what the clients were asking versus what I was looking for.
Mhm. You mentioned that you went into lockdown right when you were opening up your independent RIA. So how has
Yeah.
COVID affected your firm specifically? And do you
Yeah.
think that'll affect financial advising here in the future?
I think that's a great question. And obviously, we're right in the middle of this right now.
Mm.
So we made the jump January 30th of last year. We were in a temporary office space in the same building that we have our office in now. So we were kind of in construction mode when we went into lockdown. And the fact that when you run your own practice or run your own business and you kind of make the rules, you can be anywhere that you need to be. So the fact that we were almost done with our transition of transitioning clients from my prior firm to our current custodian, and then we actually came up to where I am now at my in-laws' home in northern Michigan. We spent lockdown March, April, and May, and a lot of June last year here. I was able to run my business exactly how I run it from my office. There was no constraints. There's no limited capacity to print, scan, deposit checks. It doesn't really matter, right? You can do anything that you want from anywhere. And I think the large firms maybe are there now, or they're as close as they're going to get because they were probably forced to adapt to these changes faster than they might have wanted to. So I think that being able to run our business the way that we needed to during something we hopefully never see again, it helped. And quite honestly, I had the best year in terms of onboarding new people that I had no relationship with prior to the lockdown, because we could run our business and help people during a time of complete uncertainty that No one really knew what was going on. And clients called our office, called our mobile phone. We could work every day. We were up and running because obviously we're I don't know what you want to call it, but we were essential in some ways. That I have friends that are at the firms that I used to be at, and they kind of struggled at first, right? They couldn't do video calls. They weren't allowed in the office. Maybe they weren't getting all the calls. So I think COVID helped us in some ways by providing us protection from the fact that when we leave and people want to meet with our clients, maybe they couldn't. But now with technology, you don't need to be in the office all day long doing the things that need to be done per se in a traditional large brokerage firm. My partner's back there, our office manager's back there. There's always someone there to do things that we need to do. So I think you will see probably some type of hybrid model in terms of days in and days out. There'll be some type of flexibility. It's hard when you have 50 or 60 advisors in an office, plus support staff, plus operations staff, plus clients coming in to maybe keep things in protocol or whatever you want to call it. But I certainly think, and I know you've talked to a lot of people at different places, that I don't think this is going away. I just don't know what it's going to look like, but I would imagine there'll be some more flexibility there. But after 9/11, people weren't going to go in office buildings anymore. They weren't going to go in high rises. And we have a very short-term memory. And I think that once we get whatever the getting through this looks like, you may see people return to kind of full force in office, because these big banks are paying a lot of rent and they want people in if they can. But I'm not there anymore, so I don't really know. But that's at least the take that I
Right. So, what should students pursuing a career in finance, or let's say financial advising, be focusing on, let's say their senior year or even coming straight out of graduation? What did you focus on, or what should we be reading?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Now, again, I didn't know what the heck I was getting into when I did this, right? I just said, oh, this sounds cool. I had some offers from other corporate America businesses and chose to kind of do this because it sounded interesting. But I think that it's all about getting your foot in the door, whether that's at a large insurance-based broker dealer, insurance company, wirehouse, bank, RIA, regional firm. It doesn't matter. If you've gone through this program and you think this might be what you want to do, getting in is the hardest part, because it sounds awesome and it's a wonderful business and it's the most exciting thing I could think of, but it can be kind of a difficult hurdle to get started. So I think if you didn't do any internships with any firms over sophomore or junior summer, or even going into your senior year, and you want to hit the ground running, getting your foot in the door, getting licensed, whether that's 7 and 66 or just 63 or whatever the licenses that you need to get, or insurance, getting your foot in the door is important. Obviously, be a student of the business, pay attention, look at things from a different perspective all the time, be willing to change, be open to suggestions, just gobble up all the information that you can, find a mentor or two, see if you can join people in their conversations with clients and prospects. Just become a sponge, because you may find you're in a certain part of the business and say, oh, I don't really know if I want to work with individuals and families. Maybe I want to work with institutions, or maybe I want to work with retirement plans. I think getting in the door, again, this is just me. What do I know? I'm just me. Getting your foot in the door and being a student and be willing to learn and be willing to adapt, I think is really important for people either coming out of graduation or even, trying to get intern experience in the summer or during school for a firm. And you may find out, I like this business, but I maybe want to work somewhere where it's a little bit smaller and closer fit than going to a large firm where it used to be, here's a phone book, good luck, we'll see what happens. That has even changed. So I think it's, in some ways, it might be harder to get your foot in the door now, but if you could do it, get in, get licensed, because once you're in and once you're licensed, there's always someone that might be willing to hire you or take a chance on you. So that's for me. It's just get in and get some experience.
I definitely agree with that. I'm just now finishing up my internship here at an RIA in Lansing, and I've really enjoyed my summer here, and I've learned a lot. So I definitely fully agree with that. Getting the experience and getting your foot in the door is super important, because that's how you figure out what you like or what you don't like, right? You got to
For sure.
experience it. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
So, you mentioned you went to Michigan State. So what was your biggest takeaway? I know you went to school here were you here during the national championship?
I was.
Yeah, how
Yeah.
was
Long
that?
time ago. Long time ago. That was really cool. We had a good run from 96 to 2000 in many sports, right? Some good hockey years, a football team, and that was really solid, and a good basketball team. I the night that they won the national championship, I worked at the Land Shark way back then, and I was down in the basement enjoying that from a back corner on a really small television with a couple of friends of mine. So I definitely think I had a really good run from 1996 to 2000 from an athletic standpoint. From an academic standpoint, I don't want to sound too uninterested, but I had no idea what I wanted to do with myself. I knew I just needed to graduate, have a degree, and then I would find something. So I give the students that are part of your association credit because they know what they want to do, or they think they know what they want to do. I had no idea. I had no idea what people do that do what financial advisors do. So again, talk to as many people as you can. I think this is a wonderful thing that you guys have, so people can hear from people at large firms, RAs, wirehouses. You've had everybody at Ritzolt on, and they're kind of the ones that generate the most content and have the most media out there, and just they're spectacular. I wish I could be them, but that's not where we are. But I think just always be open, be willing to learn, and be willing to take a risk. And while you're in school, if it doesn't work out and you don't want to go to wealth management route, you can find something else because you've got a wonderful degree from a fantastic institution. And just be willing to bet on yourself, because when you graduate and you're 21 or 22 years old, you've got a long way to go. And it doesn't mean you have to find the be all end all once you get out of there, but just be willing to have some experience. And the more no's I think you find yourself getting, the more success you're going to have, because you're going to overcome those objections, and you're going to show your grit and your drive. So.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, man. I really appreciate your time. If it makes you feel any better, the Land Shark opened up here a couple weeks ago from COVID, so they're back in business.
I saw that. So
they rebranded. Yeah, they're back though.
They're a restaurant. I've seen. We were there a long time ago. We have season football tickets, so we're there often. And it was probably when my son's now 6.5. Shout out Wolf and my wife Karen. But it was definitely towards the end of them changing, before they changed, and then I know they've rebranded, and I see their posts. So that dates me and makes me feel really, really old now. So, but I think you guys are doing a great job. And obviously you've had guests of all the different podcasts or things that I pay attention to, whether it's Michael Kitz's, Josh Brown, Barry Ritholtz, who else you guys had? Doug Bonaparthon. I think all these guys are the creators. Like Justin Costello, you had him on. I'm part of the advisor growth community. So I think there's a lot of people out there doing wonderful things to help this business flourish, and people realize that we're all kind of in this together. Yes, there's some competition, but in 21 years, I've never ran into someone that has an account with someone I know. So I think we can all work together and, use this community to your advantage. There's a bunch of people that have come back on, like Oscar's how I got here. Oscar's killing it at Raymond James. He just is doing sorts of wonderful things. So I think this community is huge to kind of help put people in a position to succeed in a profession that no one really kind of knows what they're getting into until they're in it. So.
Yep. Shout out to Oscar. Yeah, he's actually about to go into the office now. He's been working remotely, but he's about to go
Yeah,
in. So
that's awesome. Yeah.
super excited for him. I know Tampa Bay is a great city to live in, and Raymond
It,
James is an awesome company. So I
there are
can't wait to
worse
have him
places
back
you could
on for the
be.
club meetings and
Yeah.
just, see his experiences and listen to him. So I'm
I've
excited.
been to Raymond James home office a few times. I entertained maybe going that route when I left my prior firm, but all the people at Raymond James do a great job, and I think he's at a good place. And heck, it's Tampa Bay, St. Pete is there are worse places you can spend time. So
Most definitely. Yep. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It was great conversation with you. So thank you.
thanks, Jake. I appreciate it. And best of
Yep.
luck. And if anybody has questions or anything, I might be biased, but I'm happy to talk to anyone. And my advice is probably worthless, but at least it's someone they can ask questions to.
If you like what you just heard, please like, comment, and share. This is Lance Mullen, producer of the MSU WMA podcast. MSU WMA, or Michigan State University Wealth Management Association, is a student organization part of the Eli Broad College of Business, located in East Lansing, Michigan. Our mission is to inspire and educate the next generation of financial planners. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed, please check out our channel on all platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And check out our social media at MSUWMA and MSUWMA.com.